Good morning, everyone. It feels like I haven't filmed in a while, which is not true. I think the only reason it feels like that is because I filmed 2 videos in 1 week and then I took a few days off, but it was only a few days, so it hasn't been that long. But I have missed filming. I have missed speaking about my thoughts and my experience and what I'm doing at the moment. So I'm glad to be back. If you're new here, I'm Amin. I speak about my writing journey, and this includes writing, reading, painting, and anything else that pertains to the project that I'm working on. I'm currently working on Project Emerald, which is a fantasy novel and will likely have a romance subplot as well. And I'm currently halfway through my chapter by chapter outline. After I complete this outline, I will be starting the first draft. This is actually part 2 of doing a chapter by chapter outline of my manuscript. Part 1 has already come out, so make sure to check that out. But this video is a continuation of that. There's a few things that I want to do. First thing is I want to complete the chapter by chapter outline. Of course, I want to bring that to a conclusion. The second thing is I actually want to revise the chapter by chapter outline. To clarify what I mean when I do this is essentially when I did part 1 and I got to the end of like the first half of that chapter by chapter outline, I then read it all out to myself and figured out where things needed to move and change. And this meant that I could actually fix the events and clarify different character arcs that were happening, the pacing, the beats, just because I was looking at it a bit more as an overall thing rather than individual chapters. And this helped to clarify a lot of the events, a lot of the different character things, and just for it to actually make sense as one. I'm really loving doing this chapter by chapter outline. I think it's giving me a lot of clarity in terms of not only the events and the plot, but also the characters. Also, any things that I feel I need to bring in with different characters, any additional characters I might need as well, and just exploring my side characters a bit more than I had done before. It's really helped me gain clarity in all of those things, which is great. And the third thing is actually I want to create a playlist for this manuscript. Now, I made a mood board of this project a few weeks ago, which was so much fun. I love that mood board and I still use that Pinterest board to look at different things and explore. But I actually, at the time, I thought I would do a playlist as well, but I realized it wasn't quite right to do a playlist then because I needed some clarity on quite a few things. And I think by the time I do at least the first round of this outline, I will have a bit more clarity and I just feel more aligned to actually create a playlist. I think it would be a fun thing to do as well before I actually start my first draft too. So I'm excited to do that. Now, yesterday evening, I had this surge of energy and I ended up working on the project and doing a bit more of the outline. So I managed to do, let me double check, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 8. I did 8 of the chapters, which means I only have 6 left to do before I've completed this first version of this chapter by chapter outline. So that's exciting. I can definitely do that today, and that way I can kind of either start looking at a playlist or start revisions. I think I would probably do the playlist just to give myself a bit of a break from the outline, give myself something else to do. So that way when I jump back into it, I'm a bit more fresh. But let's get into it. Let's finish this first version of the outline and then we are one step closer to starting the first draft. Hello, so I have just finished the first version of this chapter by chapter outline, and I want to speak about a few things. Firstly, the reason I am putting so much pressure on getting through this outline is because I like having a base before I actually write. Now, I know a lot of these things are going to change as I start writing, not only the first draft, but all the revisions after that. I know that's going to happen. but I don't want to start writing this without having any direction at all of what is next. So having this really is just going to give me a foundation and something to fall back on if I require it, if I haven't got any new ideas whilst I'm writing. This is just a way that I can start the first draft without feeling worried that I don't know anything about what's going to happen. That is why I am ensuring that I actually do this outline for all of the chapters. Now, I explained this in the first part, so if you haven't seen that video, I will explain it again. Essentially, the structure that I am following is a 27 chapter structure, which I learned from this video, and that will be linked in the description. What this is you essentially have 9 chapters for each act, which adds up to 27 chapters in total, and this helps you pace the book for different beats of the story. Now, this is a very general structure. Of course, when you actually start writing, you might find that you have additional scenes and chapters that you want to add in. You might find one plot point, instead of being one chapter, you want it to be a few chapters and things like that. So it's definitely customizable as you actually write, but it is just giving me a very nice template to follow whilst I do this outline. Now that I have done the first version of this outline, as I mentioned earlier, I'm actually going to start working on a playlist. I haven't done this before. I think what I'm going to do is essentially have the outline and Spotify side by side and just start to look at different chapters and try and find music to align to those chapters. And I don't need this to be in chronological order, but I think having the outline open will help me kind of remember what things are going to happen and try and find music to align to that. This is obviously something that will be ongoing as I work on the project, but I think it's just something fun to do, something to take a break from the outlining and the brainstorming and all of that I've been doing the past few months. And yeah, give me a bit of a break before I revise the chapter by chapter outline. And also, this playlist will be something that I think I will want to have on whilst I actually write the novel. So, because of that, I think most of these songs are going to be instrumental. If all of them can be, that would be great. But if they're songs with lyrics, I know that when I listen to music with lyrics whilst I'm writing, I get distracted. So, I'm going to try and make as many of these instrumental as possible. I will link in the description below the Pinterest board for this project and also the playlist, just in case you want to check them out too. Going to heaven, y'all. You know what I'm feeling. Tell them all, hands up. Good morning, everyone. It is the next day now, and yesterday I did manage to work on the playlist. I only added a few songs to it, so it's definitely something I will continue to update and add to as I work through the project. But it was a lot of fun. I see why so many people do it. I found that it really helped me to start visualizing different scenes and even characters and getting clearer on a few of the scenes that I haven't figured out yet or that I haven't got ideas for yet. It actually really helped that. I did find that I was choosing music that aligned to my personal taste rather than to the project itself. So I did have to remind myself to make sure that I chose songs that just worked for the project, not necessarily songs that I would listen to on my own. All of the songs that I have added to the playlist so far are instrumentals because of what I mentioned before, where if it's lyrical, I will get distracted. So it was a lot of fun to do that. Today, I am actually going to focus on my third task of this week, which is to do a revised version of the chapter by chapter outline. I am essentially going to read through and read out loud the entire outline so far and look at it as one and just pick it apart a little bit. So I will change events around. If they're not in the right order, I will sort out the chronology. I might add a few subplots regarding different characters or a romance and things like that that I may have missed when I did this the first time around. And I just want to make sure it is all really clear in my head what I've got at the moment so that it's a really good solid foundation that I can work off of and fall onto if I need it. So that is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing writing sprints because I haven't done them in a while and I found that they were really helpful. I'm not going to be watching any. I'm just going to put up a timer. I think I'm going to do like 25-minute writing sprints and just get through and revise this outline. So that is the plan for today. And I'm excited because by the end of the day, this outline will be done. And the next step is to start writing the manuscript, start writing the first draft, which I am calling draft 0. I explained more of that in the video I did for my 2025 goals, but I will be calling the first draft 0, and that is the next step. I'm going to stop procrastinating now because I found this morning when I first sat down to work on this outline, I just started watching YouTube. Now, the YouTube videos were related to writing. So it wasn't completely procrastinating, but it was stopping me from doing what I actually set out to do for the day. So I need to stop doing that because I definitely am scared of the fact that once I've done this outline, I will be writing the first draft. And that is very daunting, but I'm excited. We can do this and it's going to be fun. Hi, it has been like 2 hours and I haven't done anything. I ended up having lunch and then I just took a longer break than was necessary. Now, I know that once I start, I'm not going to want to stop. And I also know that I will regret not starting earlier. But it's just something about starting that I always struggle with. And it just takes me ages to actually get going on the project. What I'm going to do is put on a 25-minute timer. I'm just going to start, and once that timer is over, because it is possible that maybe I just have a lower energy than I thought I did, and that's why I'm taking longer to actually start, in which case, after the first 25 minutes, I can evaluate. If I do have less energy than I initially thought, then I can stop and pick this back up another day because I don't want it to feel pressured and like I don't want to kind of stress myself out trying to get through something if I just don't have the capacity for it right now. So I'm going to start and do one sprint and then evaluate afterwards and see how I'm feeling. So I have done my first writing sprint of the day. I essentially added details to a few of the chapters, especially the chapters later on, and just made it more cohesive. Because I was going through the whole outline as one, it made it so much easier to just tie things together a bit more. So I've done that, which is great, and I know that if I try to continue outlining the plot and going into more detail, I'm just going to overcomplicate it because all of these things that I'm now questioning, I will only figure out once I actually write the draft. And it's things that I will learn and explore as I'm writing rather than trying to plan it all out now. So I'm not going to do any more in terms of the plot outline. What I am going to do is work more on the characters and their arcs within the story, because I saw in a few of the chapters that I've actually missed out on developing the characters quite a bit. And I just want to go through and ensure that interactions occur at the right moments, interactions between love interests, interactions between siblings, things like that, that I have missed out in adding to the outline that I think should be there. So I want to do that next. But first, I want to give a bit of a reading update. So I have now officially read the entire A Court of Thrones series. I believe in my last video I had just finished A Court of Frost and Starlight and was going to start A Court of Silver Flames. I have read them all. I really enjoyed this series, and as much as I love world building and I love the descriptions that fantasy novels often have, the biggest thing for me is the characters, and I think it's the biggest thing for everyone that makes you most invested in a book or a series. It is the characters, and Sarah J. Maas does this amazingly, especially in the last book, A Court of Silver Flames. I think the exploration that she goes through for different characters is just amazing, and the characters are the heart of the story, which is why I think I can acknowledge now that I've really missed out on a lot of that in my outline so far, and adding that back in is just going to make it so much more substantial. Not only did I enjoy this series, but I'm definitely going to read some of her other series at some point. Yeah, I've loved it, and I've also loved reading it side by side whilst I'm doing my outlines and reading other fantasy books as well, because it has really helped me explore fantasy worlds, different types, and like how authors bring in that information for the reader, how the characters play in those different worlds. And I am absolutely going to continue reading fantasy books. They are my favorite type of genre anyway, but I've definitely made a point of it more so recently in the past couple of months to ensure that I just keep reading. And it has helped me explore fantasy worlds, it helped me enjoy the craft a lot more, and also allowed me to kind of subconsciously analyze the books that I'm reading, things that I enjoy about them and then things that I perhaps don't, and ensuring that I use that knowledge and apply it into my own manuscript. So the next thing that I will be working on is the characters. I'm going to be doing another 25-minute sprint, and I think that should be enough. I don't want to do too many sprints on this outline because I think I'm just going to overwork it and it's going to be unnecessary. So I just want to do one 25-minute sprint, work on the characters, their arcs in the different chapters, and add more detail to the different interactions that I put there. And then I will catch up with you after that. Okay, so we have the show her conflict. No. So that writing sprint is over. I have added more detail to different character arcs and interactions for the outline, and that is the outline done and ready for me to actually start writing the first draft, which will likely be the next video that I do. So that is super exciting. Now I want to touch on something that I briefly mentioned earlier in the video. So this morning when I was struggling to start writing, I mentioned that I was going to do one writing sprint and then evaluate my energy levels afterwards. That is actually part of one of my goals for 2025, in which as much as I want to be accountable and make sure that I do right, I don't want it to be from a place of stress and pressure. So, doing one writing sprint and reevaluating afterwards allowed me to decide whether I had low energy and therefore didn't have the capacity to write today, or if I was just self sabotaging. Today, I was self sabotaging. I was scared to write because I knew that once I stopped writing this outline, it would be time for me to start the first draft. However, towards the end of 2024, I was incredibly drained, leaning towards burnout because work had been so stressful. And then I was also trying to write as well. And it just got to a point where it was starting to get quite toxic. It was taking away a lot of the excitement I had for the project. And I knew then that I needed to allow myself to take breaks when I needed to, allow myself to not write every single day or even every week if I was so drained and I didn't have the capacity to do so. And doing one writing sprint allows me to then decide whether I want to continue or whether I need to stop, take a break, and pick it up another day. That is something that I will be doing throughout this year and hopefully throughout my entire writing career, just to ensure that I don't overwork myself, I don't put too much pressure on myself, I maintain the enjoyment and excitement of it whilst also progressing in a healthy, peaceful way. And I think today was actually the first time this year that I've actually really put that into play, and it worked like magic. It was a great way for me to not feel guilty if I then decided that I couldn't write today, that I didn't have the capacity to, even if I had planned to write. The guilt was just alleviated because I knew that this is just one of my goals. This is just one of those things where we ebb and flow with how much energy we have, how much capacity we have, and it's okay. You're allowed to take breaks and you're allowed to pause. Yeah, that's a really important thing that I'm still in the process of learning. I am still in the process of implementing, but today was definitely the first time that I've implemented it and I feel good about it. So that has been an important learning curve for me. Now, as I mentioned in the next video, I will be starting writing my first draft. So make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any videos of this journey. It's going to be fun and exciting. We're also getting closer and closer to spring, which I am ready for. And other than that, I will see you in the next one, and happy writing.